Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. In today's program, we will be exploring the bilateral relations between Pakistan and Kazakhstan. We know that both countries share a long history when we talk about Soviet times, but the diplomatic relations between the two countries were established in 1992. And since then, both countries have been working to expand their ties in economic spheres as well as cultural ties and diplomatic ties as well. In today's program, we will be exploring the areas of cooperation between the two countries. When we look at the strategic location of Kazakhstan, we understand that Kazakhstan is located at the heart of Central Asia and it acts as a hub, transit hub between Asia and Europe. And when we talk about Kazakhstan, of course, Kazakhstan is one of the largest landlocked countries of the world, and it has no direct connectivity to Pakistan. In today's program, we will be exploring various avenues of connectivity between Pakistan and Kazakhstan, specifically in the context of China-Pakistan economic corridor, and we will also be talking about the opportunities and future prospects as well as challenges of bilateral relations between Pakistan and Kazakhstan and its impact on the region at large. To discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studios by Mr. Shahyar Khan, who is expert international affairs. Welcome to the program. And we are joined online by Dr. Hasnain Javed, who is an economist and expert international affairs. And we are also joined by Mr. Humayun Khan, who is expert international affairs. A very warm welcome to you all in the program. Mr. Shahyar, well, let me start with you. When we look at the strategic location of Kazakhstan, of course, we understand that it is located at the crossroads of Central Asia and Eurasia, East Asia, Eurasia, as well as, so this is a very important strategic location, but we understand that this is also a landlocked country. So how do you see this location of Pakistan and Kazakhstan and its importance in the region?
First of all, Mariam, thank you so much for inviting me here today on a very important topic. So before I start talking about Kazakhstan and Pakistan's relations and the importance of Kazakhstan in the region, first we have to see that Kazakhstan is one of the largest countries in terms of landmass of Central Asia, and in terms of population it's not very large. It's just like 19 million people. And Kazakhstan is located at a geographical location which is very rich in oil, gas and natural resources. So in terms of foreign trade and the revenue that Kazakhstan generates out of its oil exports are around about $135 billion every year. As you mentioned in the introduction of the program, it's like a very landlocked country. So its connections with the South Asia and Southeast Asia are very limited and only through Afghanistan. But other than that, 70% of China's trade through Kazakhstan to Central Asian states and to Europe happen through Kazakhstan.
Of course.
So 70% of the trade is done through Kazakhstan.
And Pakistan can potentially provide shortest route to Kazakhstan to China as well when we talk about Gwadar port. So let's talk about this importance in the context of region as well, that how both countries have historically interacted with each other.
So that's a very interesting history. A lot of our viewers don't really know that even before the establishment of the modern Kazakhstan state, which is very recent in 1991, Pakistan shares a very important history with this country. So even before the formation of Pakistan, independence of Pakistan in 1947, in 1926 to 29, there was a lot of political upheaval in Kazakhstan.
1927 to 1939.
39 after the First World War, and a lot of Kazakh Muslims at that time faced a lot of atrocities by the Soviet state at that time, and they basically migrated to the Pakistan's northern areas to flee from the persecution that was going on at that time. At that time, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when he was leading the Muslim League, they passed a resolution in the Indian parliament of that time to urge the Indian government to provide safety and security to these Kazakh Muslims that migrated, and they were as refugees. They are still settled in the northern areas of Pakistan. So that's where the historical linkages, and even before that, if we talk about the Silk Route, The historic Silk Route connects a lot of cities like Astana and like Almaty to Peshawar, to Quetta, and it's like part of the ancient Silk Route. So even before the establishment of these modern states, there is a very long historical and cultural linkages that Pakistan and Kazakhstan enjoy.
Of course, there's a long history that connects with both the countries. But Mr. Humayun, when we talk about the diplomatic relations between the two countries, how do you see Kazakhstan views Pakistan's strategic location in the region, and how do you see its impact on the bilateral relations between the two countries?
Thank you, Mariam. I guess in terms of diplomatic relations, political relations, both countries have a very good trajectory of this relationship. Since they have politically and diplomatically got connected in 1992, from then onwards, there has been a long array of visits from their previous president, from our Pakistani president, prime minister, foreign ministers, and there has been a regular exchange. And other than that, Pakistan and Kazakhstan share membership in various international organizations together as well, particularly Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Economic Cooperation Organization, and apart from that, Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation, and also a newly organization, which is not very new as of now, but that's also very important in terms of Central Asia and South Asia connectivity. That's Conference of Interaction and Confidence Building Mayors in Asia. It's called SICA. From these organizations, there has been a regular interaction on the sidelines of the summits when they had. And other than that, Pakistan and Kazakhstan, they share very cordial relationship. There's mutual understanding on a lot of issues. When Kazakhstan was joining WTO, Pakistan supported its membership in WTO in 2005. Then the prospect of stability in Afghanistan is also something which both the countries are discussing on a regular basis.
Of course.
With these emerging new trends of Belt and Road Initiative, there are new vistas of opportunities, and bilateral trade and relationship could increase tremendously in the coming days. Although the current level of economic cooperation is very less compared to what the potential is, but with these new initiatives coming up, there is a huge potential that they could increase their meager trade from like $29 to $30 million to more than $1 billion. And this is what they've decided in 2009 SCO summit as well.
Of course, of course. So, Dr. Astan, how do you see, what are some of the key areas of cooperation between the two countries? And specifically when we talk about the political relations between the two countries and the diplomatic relations between the two countries, how do you see they have evolved over the years?
See, if I focus on the diplomatic relationship between the two brotherly nations, were established when the Nursultan Nazarbayev, the first president of Kazakhstan, visited Pakistan in 1992. So over that, 75 mega BRI projects were worth 35 billion are operating in the Kazakhstan, not least because of the country's role as a global transit hub. So as Humayun said, so if I look at the, structural part of that Kazakhstan area is in 2022, Kazakhstan with the population of 19.3 million is the richest country in the Central Asia with a record high foreign trade turnover with the 134.4 billion, which is huge as per now. So Kazakhstan can be considered as an attractive investment hub for the several reasons. So firstly, the country has a plenty of the natural resource, including the oil, gas, minerals, as well as significant agriculture potential. And the second is the 70% of the transit tariff between the China and Europe passes through the country, which also has 24 airports with the 72 air corridors. In addition, it is a member of the Eurasian Economic Union, which gives its access to the common market of over 180 million consumers. So finally, the Astana International Finance Center make Kazakhstan a key financial hub, as Shahryar just pointing out the Astana financing centers. So Kazakhstan a key financial hub in that region. So both countries should also consider utilizing two existing railway links: Pakistan, Iran, Turkey. So you are talking about the
regional connectivity. Of course, we will be talking more about these connectivity corridors later in the program. But Mr. Shahryar, I want to talk about... Right. Mr. Shehyar, I want to talk about Kazakhstan. How do you see Kazakhstan view Pakistan's location in the region, and specifically when we talk about, of course, connectivity? You earlier mentioned that Afghanistan is one of the routes which connects both the countries. So how do you see the role of external actors like US, China, and its impact on the bilateral relations between the two countries?
So Mariam, another thing that needs to be understood is that overall BRI network that we are a part of when it comes to, and CPEC is also a part of the BRI network. So even Kazakhstan is also one of the key recipients of the Chinese investment. So in Pakistan, it's like around about $62 to $65 billion worth of infrastructure and power projects. And in Kazakhstan, it's like over $35 billion. So there's like a lot of like potential for synergies that can be created between the two countries and mutual cooperation. Another area, we've already discussed it and all the esteemed analysts have also talked about it, that Kazakhstan is a very resource rich country. It has like a lot of like mineral deposits. It has like I think like one of the largest gas reserves in the world as well, and one of the largest oil reserves in Central Asia. But right now it's like it's the largest export partner that Kazakhstan has is China. And I'm sure given the geopolitical environment and the future of this region, Kazakhstan would want to diversify its dependence on China as the export partner. And one of the key areas where Pakistan can provide Kazakhstan with a lot of support is access to the warm waters of the Arabian Sea. So given that the security situation in Afghanistan is a bit challenging right now, but it won't remain like that forever. So there's a very huge potential of connecting Kazakhstan and Pakistan through the Gwadar ports, through the CPEC networks, through the large infrastructure of railway and the road network that is being built under the framework of CPEC. Kazakhstan has a very important and a very lucrative potential to basically cooperate with Pakistan and get access to Southeast Asia, South Asia, and even like the Middle East through Pakistan's connectivity.
Of course, there's a lot of potential for connectivity, but when we talk about current circumstances, there are no as such rail connectivity or air connectivity between the two countries. So Mr. Humayun, when we talk about these connectivity corridors, how do you see that Pakistan view Kazakhstan location or importance in the region, and what are the importance or prospects for future cooperation when we talk about different rail networks between the two countries?
Thank you, Mariam. I guess this is a very important question in terms of connectivity. As of now, our entire connectivity focuses more on Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then on towards Central Asia. And because of this very reason that there is instability in Afghanistan, in 1995, Pakistan, China, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, they signed a quadrilateral transit and trade agreement for trans-traffic between Central Asia and Pakistan, or South Asia for that matter, so that they could like circumnavigate the Afghanistan area in between. And that was also a project which was supposed to give boost to China-Pakistan economic corridor as well. So now what we can do is we can use the Karakoram highway and we can use Kashgar via Urumqi, and from there on towards Central Asia via Kazakhstan as well. So if we could do this, that could tremendously increase the potential of trade links between Pakistan, South Asia or Central Asia. And that's entirely the reason that we are developing Gwadar port as well, so that this connectivity is there. On railway link, yes, Dr. Hasnan was mentioning about the two railway links which could be interconnected. That's Pakistan, Iran and Turkey. And then the other one is Iran, Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan. If that is interlinked with each other, I think there is also a potential. And then also air corridor, which you were mentioning. We have signed number of agreement with each others in terms of providing air corridor to Pakistan and Kazakhstan, but somehow the implementation phase is very less. Visa facilitation is also...
Of course. But Mr. Humayun, when we talk about these connectivity corridors, how do you view, how important is the foreign policies of both countries when we talk about Pakistan and Kazakhstan? Are the foreign policies of both countries aligned or in coordination to pursue these connectivity corridors?
Absolutely. The reason why I'm saying, and this is what Shahryar was also mentioning earlier, that, in terms of Belt and Road Initiative, since Pakistan is the flagship project of Belt and Road, which is called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and apart from Pakistan, Kazakhstan has a huge number of projects in which Chinese have invested there. So it's also in the interest of China and Pakistan and China and Kazakhstan that this connectivity increases. Apart from that, Kazakhstan and Pakistan has always been shared a cordial relationship with each other since the beginning of their diplomatic relation. And we have seen Kazakhstan supporting Pakistan on a number of occasions on international issues, and Pakistan has done the same. So there is a unanimity of view. So what we need to do is we need to capitalize that on that unanimity of the view and progress by establishing these relationships with the help of Chinese, with the help of Central and South Asia connectivity. And now that Iran and Saudi Arabia also had a rapprochement, so there would be more stability in the Middle Eastern region. So I guess these regions could get connected very easily and very quickly. So if we continue on the trajectory that we already have, I guess the future has a lot of potential for both the countries and the region.
Of course, the future has a lot of potential for both the countries and the region, and we will be talking more about these bilateral we are talking about bilateral relations between Pakistan and Kazakhstan. Dr. Hassan, when we talk about these relations, of course, economic integration is very important. So how do you see the current state of economic relations between the two countries, specifically when we talk about trade volume between the two countries?
Well, specific to the economic cooperation, there are numbers of projects has been done between the Kazakhstan and Pakistan. Where if I focus on the Pakistan export to Kazakhstan was about 193.1 million during the 2021, and then export to is increasing by 550%, while in import from the Kazakhstan decreased by 77% this year, just because of the few reasons. But the Kazakhstan is by 805% from the 2015 to 19 period. So it was the time where the Pakistan main export to Kazakhstan was the cereal, fruit, oil, seed, pharmaceutical product, vegetables. Country main import from Kazakhstan are chemical, vegetables, rawhide, skins, coffee, tea, spices. So moreover, Kazakhstan is very much dependent on that. But Kazakhstan economic, if I carry out the stats, which is the real GDP purchasing power, is 496.126 billion. And the real GDP growth rate is 4.3, which is much higher than us. Then is the GDP per capita is 26,100, and GDP official exchange rate is about 181, and the inflation rate is just 6.5. And if I compare to that, we are on the highest level these days. But if I give you just a view about the economic review, which is the GDP of the USD 122 in 22 is comparable to Russia. So oil is the Kazakhstan major export, followed by the natural gas and other commodities. So Kazakhstan has the 12th largest proven oil reserves and many other things. But also its main export are the Central Asian neighbor Iran, Turkey, and although in recent years it has begun exporting to China, Korea, and Japan. And as Humayun told that there is an ECO, just I was covering about that, but I just wanted to put it the very important thing, which is just not about the Pakistan export to other countries, but mainly focus on the main opportunity, which is about the Kazakhstan considered as an investment hub for the several reasons. First, the country has plenty of the
natural. But Kazakhstan also needs to diversify its economy. What is your viewpoint on this? Because we know that Kazakhstan is rich in natural resources, but its economy is dependent on that as well. So how do you think both countries can diversify their economies?
How they diversify? It is on the structural basis. fully focus on the structural basis. I'm telling about the agreement to implement the recent agreement on implementing on 500 million projects of carrying out rail track rehabilitation from Sakkar to Karachi was signed in November 21. It is a joint venture between the MS Habib Syndicate and Aktob Railway and Section Berg Antra. So, in construction and Kazakh exports. The later in providing 350 million in the finance the project, a joint business council comprised the Federation of the Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industries and Chambers of International Commerce of Kazakhstan has been established recently, and that further improved the bilateral trade relationship with the convening private business companies. So Kazakh Airline, SCAT, if I'm not wrong, is launching a direct flight between the Almaty, Lahore, as Shahriyar just touching upon it, and Almaty, Karachi this April, which will boost the bilateral trade, economy, investment, and tourism. So the National Logistics Cell, Pakistan biggest logistics service provider, is about the dispatch its trail caravan of the vehicles to the Kazakhstan to access the feasibility of the land route. So Pakistan Ministry of Commerce and the Trade Development Authority, TDAP, have invited Kazakhstan as a guest of honor to participate in 18th edition of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Trade and Fair in Lahore in June 16 to 18. So which will have a national pavilion with the will showcase the Kazakhstan products and service to promote the country's history and culture and tourism potential. So at the 11th Pakistan and Kazakhstan International Government Commission meeting, chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of the Trade and Integration, Sirik Gumarzain, in the Islamabad, December 22 and 2022. So number of documents were signed on the trade, economic, scientific, technology, and culture.
Of
so
course.
very much important is the recent one is the Zumarberg discussed cooperation in the energy sector, particularly
of course, we will be talking about energy sector, but I want to discuss about this businesses cooperation and opportunities that Dr. Hassan mentioned about, that it has, these connectivity corridors has opened a lot of business opportunities. So how do you think these Pakistani and businesses of Kazakhstan are responding to these opportunities, and what are some of the sectors that needs more importance given to them, and there is a lot of potential in some sectors?
So Mariam, the Ministry of Commerce and the Trade Development Department, the TDAP, which is housed at the Ministry of Commerce, they're like doing a lot of like trade fairs and trade shows in Pakistan. Dr. Hasnan also mentioned that there's a trade show that is coming up in Lahore in June, and Kazakhstan has been invited as one of the key members. And this trade show is also in line with the OIC gathering that is set to be planned in June in Lahore. So Kazakhstan will be coming to Pakistan, and they will be displaying most of their products and a lot of services that they can provide in the Pakistani economy, and vice versa. Other than that, the Kazakhstan's companies are already financing and undertaking a lot of infrastructure projects as well. One of our analysts very rightly said that Kazakh companies have signed joint ventures with Pakistani companies, and they are working on the modernization of the railway tracks between Sakkar and Karachi. So that's partially funded by Kazakhstan.
But these are the traditional, areas of cooperation. What are some of the sectors where you see that there is a potential for both the countries to cooperate further?
So one key area that will always remain very relevant when it comes to Kazakhstan and Pakistan would be investments in the energy sector. So one key area that is very important is that there's a lot of talk, and there have been delays as well when it comes to the Tapi gas pipeline. And a lot of Pakistani delegations have visited Kazakhstan as well, and they would want Kazakhstan to become a part of this as well. So that's one area that needs more cooperation. Obviously, it's dependent on the situation in Afghanistan, because the pipeline has to pass through Afghanistan to get to Pakistan. So that's one area. Other than that, we
But
talk about...
when we talk about this energy cooperation, how do you see what are some of the key areas of cooperation even in the energy sector? Is it renewable energy or oil and gas exploration? What are some of the key areas?
Mostly it's oil and gas, because of because Kazakhstan is like very rich in those like natural resources. Then Kazakhstan can also like focus on developing some sort of like refineries that we're already talking to Saudi about. And again, if Kazakhstan is attracted and Pakistan can make a case for Kazakh companies to come and invest in the special economic zones that are available, especially near Gwadar. So that would provide Kazakhstan with a lot of access to you know, the Arabian Sea, and through that they could also like focus on Southeast Asia as well. And that would obviously provide them with an alternative opportunity to, you know, export their products. Other than that, they have like a lot of other products that they can contribute to the Pakistani economy. It's like a lot of minerals like zinc, magnesium, cobalt. They have like a lot of products that they basically mention. Another area of cooperation that is recently coming up is like financial sector cooperation. So Kazakhstan is now venturing into Islamic banking as well, and they don't have that experience, even though Kazakhstan is a financial hub when it comes to Central Asia because of the vast resources in terms of dollars that they have in their central bank. So Mizan Bank and the central banks in Kazakhstan are cooperating, and Pakistan is sharing the knowledge of how to set up Islamic banking and Islamic banking financial instruments. So a lot of like cooperation in terms of financial institutions is also like taking place.
Of course, there is a lot of cooperation going on, but when we talk about energy cooperation, that is one of the key areas of cooperation between the two countries, because Pakistan is in need of energy resources and Kazakhstan is one of the largest producer of energy resources. So Mr. Humayun, when we talk about these cooperation in specifically in energy sector, how do you see what are some of the key challenges in energy sector? Is it energy efficiency, or when we talk about energy security, what are some of the key challenges and how to address those challenges?
I think Dr. Shayar, Dr. Hasnan and Shayar also mentioned about the structural issues which exist between the two countries in terms of, like, you know, we have signed a number of agreements, MOUs, and we have done a lot of accreditation with each other, but somehow the implementation phase is a bit slow. If we could, for example, just a minute ago, Shayar was talking about more cooperation between the Chinese, Pakistani and the Kazakh financial institution. There is a special economic zone which Kazakhstan has built on the Chinese border, which is called Khargos. It's a huge special economic zone, around 430 hectares of area. And some of the Pakistani companies have already registered themselves there. And that special economic zone is connected with Kashgar, and Kashgar is then connected with Gilgit-Baltistan. So if these connectivity areas and projects are connected in a way that there is more efficiency, there is more trade, there is more transparency in terms of, you know, we have different taxation system, and when you involve three different countries, which is China, Pakistan, and then Kazakhstan, the procedures needs to be simplified as well. So if we could do that, trade between Central Asian states, which are some of them are landlocked and most of them are, can come through bypassing Afghanistan via China to Pakistan, and that could increase. Then there are many areas in which Pakistan can, by the way, export different things to Kazakhstan, which include precious stones, jewelry, textile. Cotton is something which we can also export. Then there is a huge potential in terms of agriculture and food products, vegetables, shoes, leather, and many other areas. And vice versa, if Kazakhstan can increase its export to Pakistan, apart from oil and gas and other metal and petrochemical things, I think they can export meat to Pakistan, machinery and equipment. Fertilizer is something which one of our colleagues was mentioning earlier. Coal, iron ore, these are the things which Pakistan are in need. And then there is a huge potential in terms of private-public joint ventures as well.
Of course.
Dr. Hasnan mentioned a little earlier about Pakistani company Habib Syndicate. Habib Syndicate and Fauji Fertilizer are in negotiation with a Chinese Kazakh joint venture before the pandemic. It was a huge project which was to establish a $200 million soda ash plant. It's also in a special economic zone in Kazakhstan. Then Pakistani NLC and Kazakastan BI Group, they are also in negotiation before the pandemic in terms of finding joint ventures in Kazakhstan. So if we could continue utilizing on these areas, I think there's huge potential that we could reap in the near future.
Of course, there is a lot of potential of further cooperation between the two countries. Dr. Hassan, when we talk about these areas of cooperation, of course, we discussed earlier as well that energy cooperation remains one of the key areas of cooperation between the two countries. But what are some of the key challenges in this sector, possible challenges when we talk about infrastructure development for energy cooperation?
See, one of the major challenging which has still been pending, it was in November 22. They trying to, just solve it out, but they could not do that. But the Pakistan government delegation visited Astana and meet with the Zumurgarian to discuss the cooperation in the energy sector, and particularly the gas transit through the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, which is TAPI and gas pipeline. But technically, the all structural problems hinders from the our bureaucratic side and most of the geostrategic side from the Afghanistan, which and the Kurgos area, which Hamayo has mentioned, it is a very important area. We must have to work on these area because this is a wonderful area to invest on. But Taipai is the most pending area. Our government must have to sit on the Taipai issue solve this issue as early as possible. But the few very important agreements in 2003, which was in February 12, they provide the legal framework of the business, establish formal banking channel as Hamayu taking the point very important. It was a very important point. Islamic banking and the banking structure system or the financial system and financial hub system, which is which would call the Kazakh intend to sign a TTA with the Pakistan, and this will open up a lot of avenues for the Pakistan, as it will not only provide a gateway to Kazakhstan but also will open
Of
door
course,
for the Central
this will
Asian
open
Republic and
new
SAARC.
avenues for both the countries for further cooperation. But Dr. Hassan, when we talk about important connectivity corridors and energy infrastructure development, do you think, like you mentioned, that there are some bureaucratic hurdles that we need to address? But other than those issues, do you think there is some role of external powers like US as well when we talk about China's role in the region? Do you think that could be one of the challenge when we talk about these cooperation corridors or connectivity corridors projects, initiatives?
I don't think so, because when there is a will, there is a skill, and if there is a skill, you can do that. Because India is they have a very good connection with Russia, and they are dealing with the oil. They are dealing with the Kazakhstan. They are dealing with the Central Asian state. Why we are picking up the point that American powers and the imperial power, the unicorn powers are the hurdle for it. It is not the problem. It is a bureaucratic, lame excuse by bureaucracy that we cannot do that just because of the American intervention. It is not the American intervention. America has nothing to do with the Taipai. It is about, you have seen that the Iran and Saudi Arabia is together. And now the most important part is we have to work harder than the China. We have to have, we cannot bypass the bloc politics. We know that the China is at the back, and the Iran and the Saudi the China is at the back of the Iran and the Saudi patch up. So if they are going into the patch up, and we must have to consider that we have to be with the China, because the America is far away from that. So we have to have the good relationship with the America, but we cannot just let go the Central Asian state power, and the $90 billion of the Kazakhstan Central Asian state. It has been pending relationship. We have to have the.
Of course, we need to address these challenges that are internal for economic integration of the region. We will be talking more about Welcome back. We are talking about bilateral relations between Pakistan and Kazakhstan. So, Mr. Shayyar, we talked about various opportunities of economic cooperation between the two countries. How do you think both Pakistan and Kazakhstan can leverage their important strategic location in the region to enhance these cooperation in various sectors?
So, Mariam, one of the key areas that's like become a bone of contention for the whole of Central Asian republics and their cooperation with Pakistan is Afghanistan and this instability that Afghanistan is going through. So, Kazakhstan and Pakistan jointly have an interest in stabilizing the region, and all sorts of economic cooperations can flow as soon as that occurs. So, in that case, Pakistan and Kazakhstan are cooperating in terms of military as well, and that's like something that we haven't discussed as yet. So, a lot of
so how do you think, what are some of the key areas of strategic as well as military cooperation between the two countries?
So, there's a lot of security cooperation that is now developing between Kazakhstan and Pakistan. A lot of Kazakh military personnel regularly come to Pakistan, and there's a security dialogue that's going on between them. Pakistan is sharing a lot of knowledge that it has gained by conducting counterterrorism operations, and it's capacitating Kazakh forces and sharing their experiences in combating terrorism. So that brings Kazakhstan and Pakistan closer in resolving the instability that emerges out of Afghanistan. So that's one area where Pakistan and Kazakhstan have potential, and they are cooperating. So this cooperation, when it materializes, and a lot of the regional states that are involved in Afghanistan, they all have a stake in terms of security. There are a lot of organizations that are threatening the peace and security of all the Central Asian states, and Kazakhstan is also one of those countries.
So how does Kazakhstan view strategic implications of that you are mentioning, that there would be some implications of these projects? How does Kazakhstan view these strategic implications of CPAC specifically on the region at large and its relations with other countries in the region?
So in terms of geography, Kazakhstan is that critical juncture that connects China to Europe as well. So most of China's trade flows through Kazakhstan, from China to Europe through Kazakhstan. Other than that, obviously, because of the immense resources that Kazakhstan has, Kazakhstan also has an opportunity to diversify most of its trading partners through Pakistan, and that cannot happen unless or until the instability in the region remains. Kazakhstan has historical linkages with Russia. It got independence in 91, 92, so it's very recent.
Yes.
Most of the infrastructure, even the oil and gas infrastructure has been developed by Russia.
Of course.
So Kazakhstan has historical linkages with Russia, and it's on a very good relationship. Now, in terms of the international geopolitics that's emerging, China and Russia are already very close. China has also already brokered a very important peace deal between Saudi and Iran. So this whole region is ripe for a lot of geo-economic cooperation that can take place. So that is Kazakhstan's interest in Afghanistan as well. And that is also that one bone of contention, that one area of instability that is stopping Kazakhstan from reaching Pakistan and utilizing the immense potential that it has of diversifying its trade partners through Pakistan to Southeast Asia, to South Asia. So that's one area that would be of a lot of concern to Kazakhstan.
Mr. Humayun, how do you view that Kazakhstan sees this impact of CPAC on the regional balance of power?
I think it's very important, and Kazakhstan is looking towards diversifying, and in terms of its land route connectivity, normally it uses either Russia or China or through Caspian Sea through the European side. But other states bypassing Afghanistan can utilize the area through which they can export their goods to Central Asia, to South Asia, to Middle East, to Africa, to as well. So this is something which they are exploring. This is something which is under discussion, and this is something on which I think there's a trilateral mechanism also exists, which is exploring the opportunities of using this corridor for Central Asian state to access South Asia. And a couple of years ago, there was a South Asia, Central Asia connectivity conference where they decided that, they would not only use the existing routes, but they will also explore new avenues through which they could connect Central Asia through without using Afghanistan as of now. Although Afghanistan is a very important country, but because of the instability there. So that's something very important. In terms of what Shahriyar was earlier talking about defense cooperation, it started in 1993 when we signed the first defense cooperation agreement. And since then, there are a number of different agreements which we have signed between National Defense University of Pakistan with their Center for Military and Strategic Research in Astana. Then Ministry of Defense Production has signed agreement with Ministry of Defense Production in Kazakhstan. And then there are a couple of other, Ministry of Interior has different agreements in MOU to fight illicit traffic in drugs and other substance. Then there is organized crime. And then apart from that, Kazakhstan and Pakistan are also part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization regional anti-terrorist structure as well, which is called RATS. So in that, there is also military cooperation, technical exchanges of information, intelligence sharing of information so that this area remains stable. So there's a huge potential between both the countries, not only in economics affair, but also in terms of defense cooperation as well.
Of course, there is a lot of potential when we talk about this strategic partnership between the two countries. Dr. Stan, how do you think both countries can collaborate further to enhance security of the region and stability of the region when we talk about, of course, the situation in Afghanistan, in the context of situation in Afghanistan?
We have been part of the security collaboration. I have clearly elaborately discuss all the parts, but main of the part is we have to have the cooperation in three major areas. One is the military, second is the finance, and third is the education. So as far as the military, so joint counter-terrorist exercise, it call it Dostarium in friendship. So Dostarium is in 2017 and Dostarium in 2019 enhanced the country's operation, strategic and tactical military cooperation. And then is what I'm talking about. Of course, we have to, expand it out more, advance it out, because peacekeeping is very much important. And all the relative area, the cooperation in the military, Kazakhstan military personnel have attended the course on the peacekeeping operation in Islamabad. So it should be continued, which is little, on a slow pace, but we have to continue as it was in 2019. So now focusing on the banking sector. So last year,
we've already talked about that, but briefly tell us finally at the end of the program that what are some of the long-term prospects for Pakistan's relation with Kazakhstan?
See, the main part is to explore the energy sector and finalize the TAIPAI. Then is the infrastructure, and most important, which is we must have to have the economic relationship on the higher basis, which connect the air corridors, transit airlines, and the route from the Afghanistan. We have to finalize and the peacekeeping in Afghanistan is most important. So we have to rearrange the ECU as early as possible.
Of course. Mr. Humayun, briefly tell us, how do you see the future prospects for Pakistan's relations with Kazakhstan?
I see positivity. I see there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of things which both the countries, both the sides needs to do. Chamber of Commerce of both countries must institutionalize their coordination and collaboration to bring business community together. Institutional research should be done to explore the preferred sectors for future. Both countries should promote joint venture under sovereign guarantees. By the way, some of the projects already have sovereign guarantees. Then establishment of trade centers should be established between both the countries. There's a huge potential. There's the list can go on and on and on. With this, particularly with BRI and the Center of Regional Economic Cooperation, CARCEC, which we have just mentioned, and Dr. Shahriyar and Dr. Hasnan mentioned earlier, it should also be expedited. There is a corridor number 5, which connects Central Asia to Gwadar and Karachi port in Pakistan. If that is expedited at an earlier stage, it could also benefit both the countries.
Of course, it can benefit both the countries. And Mr. Shahriyar, at the end, how do you see Pakistan's future trajectory with Pakistan's relations with Kazakhstan?
Mariam, I always believe that economic cooperation should come hand in hand with like cultural and social cooperation as well. And that's one area where a lot more can be done. Kazakhstan's ambassador very recently announced that Kazakhstan is like starting airline routes between Almaty and Lahore and Almaty and Karachi. So that will provide us with an opportunity of like engaging in more people-to-people contacts. That's like something that has been lacking. So tourism and cultural cooperation will bring the people of the both countries together, and there will be more economic cooperation stemming from that as well. Other than that, a lot of like Pakistani students are traveling now to Kazakhstan to like do their higher education. Around 2,500 Pakistani students are studying in Kazakhstan right now in terms of medical sciences. So other than economic cooperation, cultural and tourism related cooperation needs to be done as well.
Of course. Thank you very much, Mr. Shahyar Khan, for joining in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Javed, for joining in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Humayun Khan, for being with us in today's program. In today's program, of course, we discussed about Pakistan's bilateral relations with Kazakhstan, and of course we know that both countries have a rich history. There are a lot of sectors in which both countries are cooperating, including energy sector. Of course, infrastructure development is one of the sectors in which both countries are cooperating. But as we move forward, both countries need to engage further to diversify their economies and work for the regional stability as well. That's all from Game Changer tonight.